the white population is a tiny minority population. It is also a genetic recessive population in terms of skin coloration. And so I looked at racism as behavior that evolved when this minority population that was genetic recessive found itself on a planet in which the vast majority of the people are not only the numerical majority, but they are genetically dominant and could potentially cause white genetic annihilation. If the white population consciously or subconsciously desired to survive genetically, that would require that the white population hold in oppression all of the non-white people on the planet. Black, brown, red, and yellow people. Now, of all of the non-white people, black people have the greatest genetic potential to cause white genetic annihilation.
Why aren't white people talking about this more? We are on the verge of global extinction, according to Wall Street Apes, the most reputable news source on X. As you can see, 100 years ago, we represented about 35% of the population. 50 years ago, 20%. 25 years ago, 15%. Today, just 8%. And in the United States of America, in 2046, white people will be considered a minority. Elon Musk is the only one that gets it. If current trends continue, whites will go from being a small minority of world population today to virtually extinct.
The book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathens. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thy heart has deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground?
I am Kylie, and white conservatives are terrified of POC outnumbering us. And I truly believe this is the motivation behind a lot of hateful policies in the US. If you haven't heard of the Great Replacement Theory, it is that over time, if enough black and brown immigrants come to the US, as well as white people having children with POC, then over time, POC will outnumber white people. And the reason that this is so unsettling to a lot of white people, especially conservative white people, is that they are terrified that if POC become in power, then they will treat us like we've treated them in the past, which is obviously not great. It involves subjugation of people, enslavement, assault, violence of basically every kind. And I think that white people can feel the shift happening as they are becoming more and more outnumbered. And that is why they are clinging so tightly to power in Congress and with the president right now. And that's why it's so funny when white people deny that racism exists, because if they didn't think racism did exist, they wouldn't be scared of being outnumbered. But they understand the ways that we have treated people of color has been atrocious, and thus they are scared of the tables turning and of being in that position of subjugation.
Greetings from the east, the north, the south, and this wicked-ass west. The topic, are these people on the edge of extinction? The question is, why do you think these people cannot reproduce? Let's get into it. I am your host. I am the one.
Dr. Francis Cress Welsing passed away maybe about 10 years ago. January 2nd, I believe, 2016. But her research on the effects of racism and genetics, I claim to be no expert, because what she studied and taught was totally over my head. I don't have the educational knowledge to speak on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let her talk. But when she studied the effects of racism and why racism is the way racism is, and because of a certain group of people that decide to keep every other race beneath them because they don't have the numbers. And from what I hear is they cannot reproduce. In the years to come, they will be less than 8 to 10% of the world's population. But these same people call everybody else minorities. Let's go to the next clip and let her explain her work and her studies. I do believe she was fired from Howard University, maybe in 73, 74. because of her work and studies. Let's go to the next clip.
The reality you're saying.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
That in spite of the fact that black people, non-white people have heard over and over again, you're genetically inferior because you are non-white. That in reality, white skin is a genetic recessive status, not as said by Francis Welsing.
What is
you
it?
see, meaning that if
Meaning
a person,
that if you and I were to have a baby, the baby would have color, and you make the contribution and I don't.
That white
So
plus
what,
colored, well, wait a minute. It's not Francis Welsing that is concerned about the disappearance of white. Ben Wattenberg just wrote a book, The Birth Dearth. There have been multiple articles in the newspaper talking about the decline of Western populations.
Yeah, here's the Washington Post, just to name one. We are a depopulation bomb, the withering of the Western world. Here, incidentally, this was the percentage of the West's population in 1900, the turn of this century. About 30%. This is where we'll be, less than 10% in the year 2075. Here's where we are about today, 15. So we're not having babies.
So whites are not having babies, and there is the concern about white genetic annihilation. In other words, I look at, this is Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday holiday, and people will say, well, here's a man who talked about love.
Yeah.
Why was he killed? And I say that the deeper logic is, what if all black and white people and non-white people and white people love? What would happen to white people? And that if I did a survey and everybody didn't have to, face anybody, if I said, how many people who are white want their children to be white, want their grandchildren to be white, want their great-grandchildren to be white, want their great-great-grandchildren to be white. And I've gone all over the country in England and asked this question.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the children and the generations to remain white.
Yes.
If you do, then you have to do something to make sure that that happens. And I say that what the thing is that is done, and particularly in relationship to black non-whites, because we have the greatest genetic potential to cause white genetic annihilation.
Because you're the blackest.
Because we, right.
The most color.
Right, we have this ability to produce melanin pigment. We have more of it than anybody else. And so the most pressure is on black people.
One of the questions asked is, what can be done about white genetic annihilation? Well, let me tell you what can be done. This man will not sit around and allow it to happen. So what can be done is, if you look at your movies and TV shows, every role that a black man get to play, he's effeminate and he wear a dress. I've never seen this type of thing before in all the years I've been on the earth. But if you ever notice the role of any black person in a movie, the man have a dress on, number one, or he's gay. So in other words, you would take black masculinity and thumb it down. And of course, you will always have these people justifying this mess, this garbage. Let's go to the next clip so you can understand what I'm talking about.
If whites are involved in their genetic survival and they are threatened by black male masculinity, then it will occur, I have to reduce his masculinity. We just recently had the president at Morehouse have to say the male students cannot wear high-heel shoes and dresses and carry purses. So something is happening, again, within the total context of a system of racism, white supremacy. Neely Fuller, who wrote the textbook for victims of racism a number of years ago, in the late mid-70s, he used to say in the system, because he was the first person to talk about racism as a system, and he said that as the system of racism, white supremacy moves on, the system is going to have black men wearing dresses. Now, to hear that in the 70s, people said, oh, this is way out. And here we are. Do you see, there's some black pediatricians who are saying we are developing epidemic levels of the effeminization of young black males. Well, I say the pants sagging down is just subconscious invitation for homosexuality. You see, it's revealing the buttocks. See, so the pants are getting lower and lower and lower. The next step is to step out of the pants altogether. And so you step out of the pants, you're going to put on a dress.
The word devil only means deceiver. The word devil only means deceiver. If you follow this devil, go ahead, do your thing, but you will be deceived. Do he want you to prosper? No. He wants you destroyed. Look way back, if you believe the Bible now, if you believe it, the woman was destroyed by the same devil. The same devil. You must understand that, hey, I am not going to do this. Do what's more beneficial for your own people. One more thing I must say. You will hear these people in the next clip. They're trying to purify Europe again, as they'll say, make Europe great again. In other words, make Europe white again. Now, the Berlin Conference, all of these nations took the African nations and divided it amongst themselves. So in other words, they can go to your nation and rule it. But when you come to their nation, they want to make their nation white again. It don't work that way. The Bible makes it clear, but be sure your sins will find you out. Whatsoever a man sow, that he shall also reap. Let's go to the final clip.
This is basically in just the last 100 years. Look at white European ancestry. That's crazy. It's going to continue moving in that direction unless something's done. At the same time this is happening, our countries are being swamped with people from elsewhere. Countries that have millions of their own people. You talk about a country like Nigeria has like 240 million Nigerians. India has 1.5 billion Indians. And European countries, whether they be Germany, Ireland, Scotland, England, Belgium, all unique places with their own culture, unique people, small population numbers, are being demographically replaced. European culture is in decline. Has to be reversed. We have to start focusing, prioritizing on our own people.
The Bible has made it clear. I have made you small amongst the nations and greatly despised. Look around the world, out of all the nations that really want to live in peace. But these people, same people, they decide, no, I'm not going to do it. The Bible say, I will make you small amongst the nations, and everybody will not like you. I didn't say it. The Bible said it. We know who these people are. Thank you for watching. I am your host. I am the one.